Today on the podcast, we have Alec Card joining us. Alec is very involved in the hockey community in Edmonton. He currently sits on the Hockey Edmonton board as the director of elite hockey. He has also coached some high-level hockey. So he's coached U18 AA team, and also he's coached some junior C teams. And he also served as the league director of the Capital City Rec Hockey League, which is what we would call a men's league. So he's very involved in hockey in the community in Edmonton, and he brings some good insights to share. And I really like his perspective because he actually did not compete at the highest level of hockey. He actually took a step away from hockey in his youth and stopped playing for 5 or 6 years, checked out some other things, and then came back to the sport of hockey. And I just think it's really cool to have that perspective that, you know, he didn't compete until his 20s or like in his junior hockey years or anything like that. He actually took a break and then came back to the sport. So just a cool chat with a good friend of mine, Alec Card, and I hope you enjoy and learn something from this. And I really like near the end we get to talking about what it was like coaching that U18 team and kind of the messages that he often found himself repeating. And I really like to hear this, but he said fun was what he found himself saying most frequently, reminding the players, have fun, enjoy what you're doing. Don't worry about what just happened. What you can control is what's going to happen next, and go enjoy it. Go have fun. So I hope you enjoy this interview, and please leave us a review, leave us a rating if you liked it, and we thank you for listening. So without further ado, here is Alec Card.
3, 2, 1, yeah!
Welcome, Alec, to the Sport Life Balance podcast. Excited to have you with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so let's start. Let's tell us about your sports journey. Tell us a little bit about the sports you played growing up, and kind of what stands out to you in your sport journey.
Definitely had a unique sports journey. I started playing hockey as a young kid. Initiation hockey, played a bit of novice, Atom, and then when I got to Pee-wee age, my parents were actually concerned about the contact in hockey. Didn't want me to injure myself, so they were, a proponent of moving away from playing contact hockey. I did still continue to play in a rec league at that time. It was a youth rec league, something quite different from the normal stream. It was 1 game a week, just keep active. From that point, got more into music, was doing a bunch with that. In high school, I got back into sports a bit more. I played football through high school, was not a big member on that team. Spent a lot of time on the bench, but still a great experience. Had some great coaches. The team won city championships for 5 straight years. I was a part of 3 of them. And then from there, after high school, was still playing some hockey at the outdoor rink with friends. And a number of them were playing junior hockey at that time. They were playing junior C or junior B. Once they reached their age limit in that, which is 21, a good friend of mine decided, hey, let's join a men's league. So we joined the Capital City Rec Hockey League. That was back in 2010. Played with them. They were all way better than me, but It was a cool experience because I got to learn a lot from their skill level and continue to play with those guys today still, 12 years later.
So you're still playing in that rec hockey league? Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
Still play men's league. Have a game today at 6:30. So
nice. Oh, that's early for men's league. Wow.
Yeah, they've done a lot with with the ice times over the years.
Cool.
But yeah, we're playing at historic Claire Drake Arena, so it's always a fun experience playing there.
Oh, that's awesome. So I want to ask about that transition. Like, you took some time off from hockey, like from when you kind of went to the more recreational route at a younger age, and had a break, played some other sports, did some other things in life, and then not until in your early 20s went back into hockey. What were some of the challenges with that? I mean, you already mentioned just like players your friends were at a different level, having played through all of those years. But what were some of the challenges, and what were some of the maybe unexpected like benefits of that?
One of the big ones was remembering what all equipment I needed to have, because the last set of equipment I had did not fit. I had to go to United Cycle and make a pretty big purchase there of stuff. It was interesting getting into it at that point, because I had missed out on so many years of development through the game of hockey. I obviously had a passion for the sport, watched a lot of hockey on TV, but not playing it, didn't have, that 6 years of experience that other players had. And a lot of them had played quite high level. So right from the get-go, I was, I wasn't treading water. My head was well underwater. And I just kind of learned on the fly, playing against some really strong players. You learn quickly. You've got to move the puck quick. I was definitely more of a setup guy. I think my first 3 seasons, I scored 1 goal per season, and it was probably the most celebrated goal from the whole team.
Amazing.
I was that, I guess that little guy they were rooting for. After playing for a few years, got a lot better than where I started at.
Yeah.
And, now I'm not playing in that top division anymore. I'm down in Division 9, but it's still, competitive brand of hockey, especially when I think they've got 22 divisions in the league now.
Wow.
So
it's a big league. That's really cool to see that many people still involved in the sport. And I wanted to ask you about the community aspect of it. Like you mentioned, when you scored a goal in that first few seasons, like it was one of the most celebrated goals on the team in the season. So what was that like? How were you accepted into that group? Like, I think of somebody entering into a newer sport or sport they've been away from for a long time, and they can feel very intimidated they feel like, I don't belong here. I don't have a place in hockey. What was that like for you?
Well, I certainly had those feelings going into it. I was nervous about how I was going to stack up playing with and against a lot of the people that I played against. It was definitely helpful that when I got into it, I had a group of friends who were also on the team. So I came in, they were always there to support me. There were definitely a few times where other guys on the team were kind of like, oh my God, how can we keep putting this guy out there? But overall, it worked out well. I mean, I would say that for what is considered rec league, I did put in a lot of time and effort to try and get better at playing. Just because I wanted to be at a level where I wasn't the guy on the ice that was just a body out there. I wanted to contribute, right?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, totally see that, and I think I would probably respond that same way.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So, Kate, just looking at timelines here, so you got back into playing rec hockey back in 2010. And you actually became the league director of the Capital City Rec Hockey League in 2011. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was an interesting transition. At the time, I was working for ATB Financial. Didn't have a whole lot, going on as far as a path with that business. I really liked what the CCRHL was doing as far as engagement with players. And, Dan Myers, who was the owner and ran the league at that time, he was out at the rink almost every night, pop into the dressing rooms, talk with the teams. We'd go into different tournaments for a group of guys from each team. We had all-star games, a whole bunch of stuff. So it was a real sense of community that I felt at that point. I think there were a total of 36 teams at that time. And I reached out to Dan. Funny enough, I had to have a sit down with him because I got suspended for taking a match on official penalty, which is the one and only suspension I've ever had. Was well deserved. At that time, dealing with suspensions, as far as major incidents go, you would actually have a sit down with Dan, Dean Panis, who was the referee in chief at that time, as well as the officials, just to, discuss the incidents, see what you did wrong, admit that you were wrong, and then come to a conclusion as far as what was a suitable time to sit out as a result. Talked to Dan at that time, said, I'd really like what's happening with this league. If there's ever an opportunity for somebody to get involved, I'd be very interested. Shortly after that, I started helping him out with a few things just as far as scheduling goes and scheduling of officials. And by early 2012, I was on board in a full-time capacity.
So as league director for those years, what was your role?
I would deal with scheduling of games for the teams, procurement of ice, assigning of referees for the games, and making the decisions on where a team should be placed in the hierarchy of divisions and things like that. And then the day-to-day, conversations that come up pertaining to, hey, we had an incident in our game last night, or hey, we can't field a team for this weekend. To be honest, a lot of it was dealing with filling holes for referees, because there's always stuff that comes up in their lives, and when you guarantee that you're going to have two on-ice officials as well as a timekeeper at every game, that can be a full-time job in itself, just looking after the management of those people.
Wow. Yeah, no doubt. So this is really like this was a full-time job for you for many years, basically running parts of that league as well as playing on at least one team.
Yep. I would say it was more than a full-time job. My wife can attest to that. Like I say, dealing with officials and teams and potential Zamboni breakdowns at arenas, everything like that. You're basically on call 24/7, and nighttime is your busy time, because that's when you have the games actually happening. So you have to be there and available to, take a call if somebody doesn't show up or if there is an issue, right?
Right. Yeah. Wow. So what inspired you, or talk to us about your transition beyond that, because you're not involved anymore with that league in an operational role, just as a player now?
Player, old guard to try and give advice when needed.
Yep. Advocate.
Yeah. To Jason and Tyler, who run the league now, do a great job. It's, my transition, I was having some difficulties with working through some stuff as it pertains to personal life. So I made the decision in 2018 to step away. It was just, I would say you kind of have a shelf life with that when it's a 7-day-a-week job, on call all the time. The league had grown exponentially. Went from 36 teams to the last season where I was running it. We had over 200. So,
Wow.
There's just a lot that comes with that. So that was, the biggest reason for making a change at that point. Just wanted to have a little more free time for myself. I still, try to help out as much as I can, but it's nice to not have to worry about having your phone beside you at all hours.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely relate to that. And nobody can blame you for that. You contributed in a major way for many years to that league success. And I'm sure, as well as the challenges, I'm sure it was very amazing experience for you personally as well.
Yeah.
So then you took a step back. What happened at that point? You decided, all right, I need some breathing room from the Capital City League. Now what?
At that point, I had started a couple years prior. I got my feet wet coaching a bit. I was coaching Junior C as an assistant coach. Really enjoyed that. And, I wanted to continue doing that. I had a couple of other opportunities business-wise come up that I had decided to pursue. None of them necessarily panned out the way that I expected, and then COVID hit. So as far as what I do for income now, total change. I do woodworking, so it's something totally out of the realm of hockey, but I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, love it. And then with that, do you feel like that allows you to transition your career or your where you make a living from hockey, a hockey related activity, to something different? Do you think that increased your capacity to contribute in hockey in a different way?
I think so. The big thing was you get so inundated with the day-to-day of hockey incidents that happen. You've got to be that ear for so many people. The guy gets suspended. You're having to talk to the refs, talk to the captain of the team, potentially talk to that player. It eats up a lot of hours in a day, having to deal with all of that stuff. I'm fortunate now that I can work on my own schedule. If I want to be out in the shop woodworking at 10 o'clock at night, I can do that. If I only have 4 hours to commit on a certain day, I can do that as well, which opens me up for, a lot more volunteering, which I get a lot of value out of. I thoroughly enjoy the people that I work with, and it's at the end of the day, I just want to help improve the sport as much as I can.
Yeah. So tell us more about the coaching. So you started with Junior C and as an assistant coach, and just kind of got involved and realized that you really loved that. Where did it go from there?
I had, a great core group of kids for a few years. A number of them I still keep in touch with. Pretty much on a day-to-day basis. I've even got a handful of kids that I've coached over the years that I play hockey with now. Like, they're on my team. So that's, a really cool experience. That was the big thing. I took it kind of reverse as it goes for most coaches' journeys. In a lot of cases with a coach, it's when their son or daughter gets into hockey, they say, "Okay, I'm gonna coach the team," and then they work their way up as their child progresses in age. I worked the opposite way. I started from junior C, which is, as far as minor hockey goes, essentially the end of the line for most players through a minor hockey journey. I was there for a few years, and then the opportunity came to coach U18 AA with Knights of Columbus, and I was happy to take the opportunity there. Again, have got a great group of kids to work with and help them on their journey. That's the biggest thing. It's about building relationships with the kids and doing what you can to help them out. I can say that I've seen a number of the boys that I've coached have success as they moved along, and it's great to, even if I wasn't the factor, just to be a part of helping someone in having success along their journey. So
yeah, it's so rewarding to see the athletes that you have even the slightest impact on, and success obviously is not just making the WHL, NHL, whatever. It's success in life. It's so great. Like you said, you're still connected with some of the athletes you first started coaching and now play with them. Like how encouraging is it to see these people become, like, these kids just turn into like great human beings?
Yeah, it's I'd say that's really the most rewarding part of it. I always as far as my philosophy on it, I'm a bit more old school, and that I'm not on TikTok or Twitter or any of those things. I tried to communicate face to face with these guys as much as I could, and whatever life experience I could pose on them, as far as things that I've had, things that they, to help with what they're going through at any certain time. I think overall, despite there being a lot of negative press surrounding hockey culture at the moment, at the grassroots level, it's still a great way to help kids become good citizens.
Yeah,
which is the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's more to it than the sport. The sport is just part of the journey, and life is. Sports are a big part of life, but they're not all of it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you mentioned something about coaching earlier, just about traditional journey of parent puts their kid in hockey, they start coaching, and they coach them all the way up. You kind of have a completely different story, and actually not, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not super common to see coaches that don't have kids on the team. So what do you think about that?
At the elite level, it is not common for parents to be coaching their kids. There's a lot.
What level would that start at in your experience?
I would say once you really get into the U15 age category, you see a lot less parent coaches. There can still be parent coaches at the community level, say if you're playing Tier 7 or something like that. But as you get up the hierarchy of level of hockey, AA, AAA, there really is a push to not have parents of kids on the team be coaches. Just perceived conflict of interest. There's always, somebody who's going to point a finger and say, hey, well, you did this because you're his dad, right? Things like that. So try to remove that conflict as much as you can.
Yeah, for sure. I really appreciate that you use age categories like U18, U15 for a non-hockey player such as myself. I'm always confused by junior, midget, bantam.
In 2018, hockey transitioned from the traditional bantam, atom, all of those names for the age categories. Now everything is in line with other sports. So it is U18, U16, U15, all of that.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Nice. Oh, that's great. Okay, so when you were coaching your U18 AA team, it was?
Yep.
Is there anything that stands out to you as far as like a general message that you found yourself often repeating to these athletes? These are U18 fairly high level athletes that you're coaching. Like what did your most common feedback or like just communication with them? Was there a common trend?
I would say that one of the big things that I tried to remind kids of on a daily basis was to have fun. When when you have players get to a high level like that, they have to be very focused and they have to, put a lot of pressure on themselves to compete at that highest level on a day-to-day basis. And you would have situations where, a play doesn't go right, something happens where they could have potentially made a smarter play, something like that. And they take it so hard on themselves personally that, the big thing for me was like, shake it off. You can only control what you can control in a shift. Like, you got another shift coming up, refresh, focus on the task, and move on from there. There's definitely been a shift in coaching over the years. There's not the Mike Keenan fire and brimstone coaching methods used so much anymore. You still see it a bit more in rural hockey, but largely, conversations that I have with other coaches, it's not about talking down to the players, giving them instructions, things like that. It's relationship building. You've got 20 players on a team. You need to have 20 different approaches for each kid. And sure, some of those guys they respond better if they get the whip cracked at them a bit. But there's a lot that if you just say, if they come off the ice and you say, what were you doing on that? 100% they know that they made a mistake already. So don't push them down even further. Just, try and encourage them to shake it off and move on to the next shift.
Yeah. Yeah. And how, at that age, how did the parent interaction with these athletes, how did that impact the kids?
It would vary. I mean, there's a lot of parents who haven't necessarily played at a high level themselves. And they are, strictly just happy for their kids. Having the ability to play at this high level, supportive of, them overall, and really are in line with kind of what I was, my philosophy and, supporting the kids, having a good relationship. Yeah, have fun. Definitely, there are other parents out there that, if kid makes a mistake, I know that he's going to be hearing about it on the ride home. And, it is always difficult to see. I'm fortunate that I've never had to be involved or seen a situation where I think there was any sort of emotional abuse, verbal abuse, anything like that. But still, you can definitely see that there are some parents out there that are going to come down pretty hard on their kid when they do make a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. They have high expectations of their kids, so they think that responding in that way is going to encourage them to do better, or maybe they're just frustrated. But I totally agree with your philosophy and opinion on it, like to encourage having fun. And just when I was coaching, I was always found myself saying, be relaxed, like relax. You do your best when you're not tense and uptight. And when you watch those players in any sport that are just out there, and you can see the smile on their faces almost, like as they're performing their best, like that just stands out to me every time. I love watching players like that. So I think it's awesome that you were encouraging, reminding them, have fun, enjoy it. Like, it's a great opportunity out there. Yeah. Okay, Alex, so what do you think about just how competitive hockey has gotten at such a young age? Like it starts out and starting at the U6 Timbit age, maybe, like the expectations are higher than ever. There's more ice time than ever. I don't know at what age kids are starting to be expected to play almost year round, like spring hockey, summer hockey, all the time. What do you think about that?
It certainly varies depending on a family's thoughts on hockey as a whole. I think that a lot are just happy to have their kid play community hockey, learn the game, learn to love the game, move up. If they stand out, that's fantastic. And then they can move to higher levels if they want to. But I definitely see with some families, there's a push right from the get-go, like, okay, like, you're going to get into hockey and we're going to make you a great hockey player. And they pump tons of money into it. There's spring leagues, there's summer camps that they're doing. I think U11 to U13 is kind of the age where you really start to see more of a push for the players that stand out to have more time and effort put towards those things. And with U13, there is U13 AA now, which is the highest level in the province for that age category. And they have, pretty much a schedule similar to what you would have as a U16, U17, U18 player.
Wow.
And I mean, sky's the limit as far as what stuff family wants to do on top of that, as far as camps, renting private ice just extra for their own kids.
Mm-hmm.
You see all levels of that.
So we were going to get to this, but I'm just going to jump right to it, because your role now, so you've transitioned from coaching and now you're in a volunteer capacity with Hockey Edmonton. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
And you're actually the represent elite level hockey on the Hockey Edmonton board.
Yeah, that's correct.
And so, as a representative of elite hockey, and doing what Hockey Edmonton thinks is best for the development of elite players, at what age category should these families start pumping the time and money and serious energy into developing their kids? Or is there a age?
I think you really need to follow what your child's passion is.
Mm.
You can have extremely talented athletes who, just want to be a multi-sport athlete.
Mm.
I would say if you look at, sorry, I'm gonna go off here. You can delete this if you want. But a guy that we grew up with, Craig Sarter,
Okay.
was one of the most talented hockey players in the city. He was captain of Team Brick, captain of AAA teams. He reached age 15, age 16, and said, "I'm done with this. This is too much." And then he completely stepped away from hockey.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always concerns about the pressures that, can be put on you to just be on at that highest level all the time. You look at a guy like Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby. From the day they first got skates on, they were driven. They knew that they wanted this.
Mm-hmm.
And the parents were kind of just along for the ride. If you listen to, interviews with, McDavid's family, they were like this was all him. He wanted it. We backed him financially to do what he needed to do, and we were happy to drive him to the rink, but he wanted this.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly if you have, a child that's driven like that, I would encourage that you can spend the extra time and money to do that. But if you have, someone who's, not necessarily looking for the level of commitment required to, get to that level, let them just have fun. Even if, they make an elite team, we have, our programs that have a certain amount of time for on-ice skills development, off-ice, gym sessions every week. I think that there's a suitable level there to really help players improve as players. But as far as all of the extra stuff that goes on top of that with camps and things like that, unless you have your kid begging to do those, I would always say, do what you can to just support them for whatever their interest level is.
Yeah.
Not to push them to a point where they're either not going to perform to what standards you're hoping they do, or they're going to just want to quit.
Right.
And that's the worst thing.
Yeah. And let me just straight out ask you this. Like if I have an 11-year-old kid that they love hockey, but they also love other sports, and they don't want to fully commit to being serious at the highest level of hockey when they're 11, can they still make it as a competitive hockey player at the highest level when they're 17?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wayne Gretzky played baseball in the summer. Gordie Howe, worked on the farms in the summer.
Yeah.
Bobby Hull's off-season training was throwing bales of hay.
Yeah.
There's so many elite athletes that, didn't need to be on the ice 365 days a year to be what they are now. We're fortunate that, players like Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid just have a lot of God-given talent.
Mm-hmm.
And they recognize that and wanted to put in the extra work. But if you're a naturally talented, athlete, I would always support being involved in multi-sport, levels. Another, person who we grew up with, Colin Joe,
Mm-hmm.
he excelled at multiple sports. He decided in the long run to pursue hockey, and he's still playing hockey to this day.
Mm-hmm.
you know, he never made the NHL, but, you know, he's had opportunities to play in China. He played in Colorado for a number of years. He's traveled all over, and I would think that his journey, although it wasn't, you know, necessarily the top tier making the NHL, you know, his passion for the game has kept him in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's another thing I would say. Like, you know, the NHL is not the be all end all. There's so many players that you know can move on to this, and they can go play junior hockey in BC, or they can go over to Europe. I have a player who played for my team last year. He's playing in Switzerland this year.
Wow.
Like, what an amazing experience for him. He gets to, you know, go to Europe, and he's playing in some great buildings there. He's got, you know, he's even, you know, had the opportunity to play against some former NHLers. So,
wow.
You know, it's, you know, hockey can certainly be something for life, and it's what a child wants to take out of the game.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to a family that's, you know, thinking about just getting their kids into the sport of hockey? Maybe they're, you know, fairly young kids.
I would always encourage, you know, families to do their best to give their children an opportunity to play hockey. I mean, lacrosse is technically Canada's game, but hockey is really, you know, a game for Canadians. And the big things for it is that it gives kids not only the opportunity to be active, be on the ice, have fun, but so much of it is in the dressing room, the relationships that they build with their teammates, you know, positive experiences that they have. Like you know, I would have kids, we would go volunteer at the food bank and, you know, do bottle drives, things like that. Like, those experiences just make you a better person. And, you know, having these experiences with like-minded kids your age, you can have friends for life. I can tell you that from when I played hockey, when I was this tall or whatever it was, the goalie who I played with, who I never went to school with, never saw him really outside of hockey, we still play together on the same team to this day.
Wow.
And that's all because of the relationship that we built all those years ago. So it can really be an amazing experience for kids to be involved in team sport. And maybe hockey isn't their cup of tea. I would always encourage some sort of team sport for every child, because it helps develop you socially and, you know, to be a good community-minded person.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love that. So what are some of the challenges for the sport of hockey in our community in Edmonton, or maybe just in general right now?
I think, you know, some of the challenges right now are the expectations that, you know, like we've discussed, in order to get a player to you know, to play at a high level, you need to spend, you know, extra time and money to do that, which really, if you have a family and you're looking at signing your child up for soccer or hockey, soccer is the significantly cheaper option. So there are financial barriers that come with that. I know that there's, you know, groups in the city like Sports Central, Kids Sport, that do amazing work to, you know, help support families that may not be able to afford the sport of hockey right off the hop, to get involved.
Yeah, we gotta just give a quick shout out to Kidsport Alberta for that one because it naturally came up. But the Oil Country Hockey Assist Program is being heavily utilized this year for hockey in our region. So it's really great to see. And yeah, they are just one of a few options out there for families to access funding to put their kids in sports. So definitely, if you're listening to this and hear that, that's something to check into, and we'll have some links for that in the show. Sorry, Alec, back to you. Don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, not a problem. Yeah, financial barriers will always be something. I think as a result of that, there has been a bit of a decline in overall registrations over the last few years. I find that funny enough, team performance at the highest level in the NHL dictates or influences interest in the sport. 2006, when the Oilers went to the Cup Finals, you saw a huge bump in the numbers at all levels for hockey because everybody lived through that experience of the Oilers run, and then kids were excited, wanted to play hockey. There's record number of goaltenders start playing hockey because they saw Roley, the goalie, and they thought, oh God, I could be him someday.
Yeah.
I think you're going to start to hopefully see a reemergence because the Oilers have escaped the decade of darkness. And we have the best, in my opinion, the two best players on the planet playing in our city, which is extremely exciting. Yeah,
that's interesting. I didn't realize there was that strong of a correlation between the team, like your local team's success and enrollment numbers. But it makes sense totally.
Yeah, and it's something I think at least in our market is unique to hockey. I know that there isn't as much as many other teams that get the same sort of following, at least locally. I do know that it is something that has impacted soccer as well since Team Canada's performance in recent years for both the male and the female side. There's been an explosion in interest. Really cool. Soccer, so
really cool. Oh, I appreciate you sharing that. I didn't realize that. I just got to share this story. I remember growing up. I don't know. Maybe I was a preteen or somewhere in there, but watching the in the spring, watching the playoff hockey, and at every intermission, I would go outside and set up my net in front of the garage and shoot tennis balls into the net with my road hockey stick and race back inside, get a drink of water, sit down, watch the next period. It was so much fun and so inspiring just watching that high level hockey and getting out there and playing. It's like good fun.
And I mean, you see it now with a lot of the kids in our community here. We've got a lot of young families with boys in the 6 to 8 range, and I this year on top of candy and chips, I gave them hockey cards for Halloween, and the parents messaged me after the fact and said, the hockey cards were the hit of the whole night. They came home with 2 bags full of candy, but all they cared about was the hockey cards.
Oh man, so that's special. Good for you. Yeah. That's such a great idea. Okay, Alex. So last question here to wrap up, and excited to hear what you have to say here. So if you could go back and do it all over again, specifically in your sport journey, what would you do differently?
That's an interesting one. I I think if I would have potentially pushed a little harder at a younger age to stay involved in hockey, you know, I do see now, all these years later, as you know, those 5-6 years where I didn't play hockey. You know, I think I would have, you know, had a bigger group of friends, you know, some other lifelong relationships that could have, you know, helped me along the way. I'm thankful that I did get involved in football, because same thing, team sport.
Yeah.
Lots of community involvement with that. But yeah, I'm honestly, it's amazing to look back and think that I'm a kid who neither of my parents played hockey at all. My mom can hardly skate. Dad was a pretty good skater, but to look at that, and for them having zero experience with hockey, just, you know, signing me up with their local association and just kind of letting me go through the process, to where I am today, you know, being involved with Hockey Edmonton, having run leagues, you know, my life still basically revolves around hockey. It's amazing what the sport can give you, if you've got the right people along the way to help foster that.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. I love your story. It's unique, like you said, and it's you know, I love that you weren't necessarily one of the elite players, but you still are involved in such a meaningful way, and the sport has impacted you in a real, tangible, meaningful way, and it's just awesome to see that you're still involved and contributing. And I think the hockey association and just hockey in general is lucky to have somebody like you. So congrats, and keep doing what you're doing. And thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It was great chatting with you.
You bet. I really appreciate it, and best of luck down the road.
Yeah,
always happy to come back on if you need somebody.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, maybe we'll be talking about hockey again one day. Any links, anything you want to shout out to, or anything you think we should link to in the show notes? We can add it in here.
I would say that, you know, anything, like if you just want to send the Hockey Edmonton website, it's a great resource. It, you know, it has sub-tabs for parents, for players, for coaches, everything like that.
Very cool. And
can really help to, you know, give you a bit more of a background if you are looking at starting your hockey journey, how to do that. There's some great resources online there.
Awesome. We will definitely put that link in there, and hope people will check that out.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks again, Alec. And
you bet.
That's a wrap. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Sport Life Balance podcast. We hope this episode inspired and encouraged you as you navigate the demands of sport and life. Be sure to subscribe anywhere you listen and leave us a review. We would greatly appreciate it. You can also find us and follow along on Instagram at the Sport Life Balance. Until next time, wishing you all the best in your sports journey.